Hi, Evolve and Ascend. Happy Sunday. I'm going to wait a moment for this to populate, but here I am more consistently doing these Instagram lives. So happy to be here, to connect with you all. I have my incense going, so if you see that smoke coming in, it's from this vanilla incense I have. So hi. To put out a poll on Instagram stories about if I should do a live or not. The majority of you guys said yes. And then the topics that I offered were either about plant medicine or dreams. And they both connect, so might as well kind of talk about both and see what comes up. I also, hi Abhishek, hi Shiva, hi Fly NH Matters. I figured also what I would do at the end is do an oracle card reading for you guys, so we can talk about plant medicine, what's coming up for you. A lot of these conversations wind up kind of going in fractal direction, which is totally cool too. So we'll see what happens. But at the end, I'm going to do an oracle card reading with my grandma's deck and the Amenti deck, which I'm the author of. So plant medicine. Before we kind of get into it, or as we get into it, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to comment and ask, and I will attend to them. But I figure the direction that we can go is ayahuasca, which is the, I guess, more like in the buzzword now. But hey, Valeria, hi. So good to see you. I'm talking about ayahuasca. So you could definitely chime in. If you want to join me too, you can. I'm actually, hold on one second, everybody. I'm going to introduce the world to today. I got a brand new kitten. So before we even talk about ayahuasca, I want to introduce you to Kira. So everybody, this is baby Kira. I just picked her up today. I lost my beloved familiar spirit Ziggy about 2 weeks ago, and it's been really heartbreaking, and I've just wanted to heal my heart, and this baby has come into my life. Ooh. She's wanting to explore, not really into being held right now, so I guess we'll see that. So I should probably put her down. Hold on one second. I don't want her to fall or anything to happen. Give me a moment. So that's Kira. So, okay. The intention of this live really is to talk about plant medicine. Like I said, ayahuasca. So I'll give a little background story. Ayahuasca, I first heard of years ago because a friend of mine had gotten into a snowboarding accident and was paralyzed from the neck down, told that she'd never walk again. She didn't want to take no for an answer, so she went down to the Peruvian jungle and did hundreds of ayahuasca ceremonies and experimental chiropractic, and through all of that, she is able to walk again with a walker. So I heard about her story and I was like, what, ayahuasca? What is this? So for those who don't know what ayahuasca is a shamanic brew that stems from the Amazon basin. And it's the combination of two plants, which is a plant that contains DMT and then a plant that contains a MAO inhibitor. So when we dream, our brains produce DMT. It's believed that DMT actually is produced in the lungs as well, but the way that our body absorbs it is kind of like an ice dissolving into fire. So when DMT is combined with an MAO inhibitor, the body holds on to that dream state even longer. And ayahuasca has been used by indigenous shamans for thousands of years as a kind of like panacea, cure-all for mental, spiritual, emotional illness. There are different ways that you can use it. There's different blends. So there's ayahuasca and then there's yahe, which is a little different. Different traditions will have different ways of adding different admixture plants depending on where you go. I first did ayahuasca in the summer of 2013, and the indigenous shaman that I work with are from Ecuador, and they were called the Sequoia. So the Sequoia, there's only like 300 to 400 of them left in the entire world. Thank you so much. And they're just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful healers. And the space that I went to the first time I did ayahuasca is called Guardia de Osa, which is in Costa Rica on the Osa Peninsula. Jonathan Miller Weisberger is the author of a book called Rainforest Medicine, which I highly, highly encourage you to read. Jonathan works with indigenous shaman, and he is an ethnobotanist, so he can really give you the scientific and cultural background of this really special medicine. So ayahuasca, when you have this journey, basically, it's like having 20 years of therapy in one night by going in this transcendental state of consciousness. The tea with this DMT and MAO inhibitor puts you into a space of transcendence, so you can address traumas, whether it's like ancestral, personal. It's literally like rolling the dice, though. Like anytime you do it, it's a different experience. But studies are finding now through organizations like MAPS, which are doing the due diligence and work to find the science behind the shamanism, is that this medicine actually is really effective for mental health and treating issues like PTSD, trauma, depression, anxiety. Every time you do it, it's different. And forgive me if I'm rambling. I'm trying to get all the information out in an effective way. But when you have this experience, so there's 4 main types of journeys that you can have. So the first one, which is really interesting, so it's called a nada. So if you take this medicine, you can actually have an experience where you feel nothing. You're just wide awake, not feeling anything. You're like, what is happening? I thought I just took the world's strongest psychedelic. What's going on? They say that the nada is actually one of the more sacred experiences that you can have, because the medicine's doing such deep work with you on a cellular level that you are not cognizant of it. Another type of vision that you can experience on ayahuasca is called the pinta, which is the vision. So that's the fractal geometry, Alex Gray painting, the 5D realities. So that's called the pinta, the vision. Then there is called the consulta, where you could have an experience where you have a life consult with a relative, an ancestor, an angel. You basically have this life review consultation called the consulta. And then the 4th main type of vision is called psychic surgery. So you could be in the state and feel like literally like your heart is being worked on and opened up, and like your stomach is being opened and worked through. Psychic surgery. Some nights you can cycle through all of these experiences. Some nights it's just one. Typically, I teach at Rythmia, which is the world's first medically licensed plant medicine resort down in Costa Rica. I was supposed to teach down there again in August, and due to COVID, it was canceled. But I'm scheduled again to teach in August 2021. And Rythmia, they have a medical license, and you are basically having this ineffable experience in a really like high-end luxury resort. So Rythmia is something I would definitely recommend checking out. I had surgery, consulta, and a bit of pinta, but my pinta was scarce. So for those tuning in with us, Valeria and I were at Rythmia together, crazy, over a year ago, and that was a really incredible week. Typically at Rythmia, you do 4 ceremonies in a row, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The first few ceremonies leading up to Thursday are like a lighter brew of medicine, and then on Thursday night is yahe. So like I said in the beginning of this, there's like different blends of ayahuasca, and the yahe is more of a thicker consistency, and it's believed to be more purgative than visionary. So it's another thing to talk about. So with ayahuasca, you'll hear common in conjunction with it, the purge. Ayahuasca, one of the side effects or one of the effects of taking this medicine is that you purge, and that can come in the form of vomiting. They don't call it getting sick when you throw up. They call it getting well, because you're literally like purging out negativity from you. I'll talk more on that in a bit, but I'll get through the other types of purges. Another type of purge that you can have is pooping, emptying your bowels, and that's getting rid of energy too. Coughing is a purge. Laughter is a purge. Yawning is a purge. Crying is a purge. Any release of energy is a purge. In my own experiences with it, my purging tends to come from vomiting. And the weirdest thing will happen when you're in that space is it doesn't feel like normal getting well. What you're doing is actually getting rid of toxic negative emotions. So anytime I've had a purge where I'm like throwing up, I'm literally seeing anger, resentment, jealousy, and negativity coming out. And they say not to look too long in the bucket when you're purging on ayahuasca, because I mean there's like visions in there. You'll look down and be like, oh my God, this was in me. Thank God it's out. But yeah, those are various types of purging. You don't always get sick. The first time I did ayahuasca in 2013, I didn't get sick at all. And actually the one time that I felt somewhat uncomfortable, I started getting really flush and heated. And as soon as I started feeling that way, the shaman was there working on me, like within a moment's notice. What they say is that the shaman, these curandismos, this is the medicine men, they undergo such training that they're able to see what you see, so they can see the field of visions and experiences of ceremony space, so that when you're struggling or when you're not doing well, they can be there and work on you. So they do something called a limpia, which is like a cleaning of the spirit. So curanderos, yes. I don't speak Spanish very well, so thank you for helping me, Valeria. So the limpia is a cleaning of the spirit. So they'll work with agua de Florida or different, leaves and different feathers and herbs to move negative energy out of your spirit. Let me see what else I should have probably taken notes and bullet points to go off for this conversation, but I figured I'd just wing it. I love you, Valeria. So yeah, the thing now I'd have to say too, so having the experience, the first time I did ayahuasca was in the jungle with indigenous shaman, and that experience changed my life forever. Since that first experience, I've done ayahuasca about 50 times, and I've worked a lot with rythmia. They don't work with as many indigenous shaman except for the Taita Juanito. And, our Thursday night Colombian shamans. There's a lot of gringo shamans, but there's not to say that there's one right way or wrong way. A lot of other shaman will train under indigenous shaman, but it's good to do your due diligence to see who it is that you want to work with and why. Other types of traditions that I've worked with are the Santo Daime tradition. So the Santo Daime, there's actually legal ayahuasca churches. That's something Santo Daime to look into. I have friends of mine that work with the Shipibo, which are indigenous shaman that are based out of Peru. I know centers like Saltara and the Temple of the Way of Light work exclusively with the Shipibo. But this is such a rich cultural history. And again, like I said, I'd really recommend reading Rainforest Medicine by Jonathan Miller Weisberger. And also there's a really great book that was put out by my friends Daniel Pinchbeck and Sophia Rockland called When Plants Dream. That's another really great resource. Other resources for learning more, entheonation.com is a really great website, which is run by a woman named Lorna Liana, and she is an incredible mind who has been working with medicines for decades and really puts together well-researched articles based off of like contemporary shamanism and the modern plant medicine movement. Another great website I'd really recommend looking into for resources on ayahuasca and plant medicine is Double Blind. Double Blind has an online platform, but they also have a print magazine. And yeah, there's lots of resources out there. I'm no expert by any means, but I'm definitely a traveler of time and space, and I've had my fair share of journeys and people I've met along the path. I love you so much. I'm so glad that you popped on, Valeria. I'll talk to you soon. And yeah, so that's a little bit about ayahuasca. other plant medicines that, are kind of in the vogue right now or talked about more often are psilocybin, which is psychedelic mushrooms. That happens to be my favorite teacher. The journeys everything is different, right? Like apples, oranges, pears, they're all fruit, but they all have a different taste. They all have a different effect on the body. For me personally, ayahuasca has been an incredible teacher and valuable ally on my path, but I personally probably won't work with it again for a while until I probably go to Rythmia next time in August. But psilocybin, psychedelic mushrooms, like I said, that's one of my all-time favorite teachers. They, again, Double Blind has really great resources on how to grow your own, how to learn more about, sorry, I'm getting text messages. I don't mean to be distracted. Psilocybin as a medicine, transcending the idea of these plants as party things or something to just not treat sacred really transforms your relationship with it. And psilocybin has been that for me. Peyote, I have not done peyote. I've done San Pedro also. If you could, Black Moon Lilith Astrology, maybe chime in on if there's any experience with peyote that's worth sharing. I know San Pedro and peyote, they're both considered, this is the other thing that you'll learn in the plant medicine space, there are masculine energies and feminine energies. I should have touched upon this with ayahuasca, because ayahuasca is considered generally a feminine energy. You'll hear people often say mama ayahuasca or mother ayahuasca. Psilocybin, peyote, San Pedro, those are considered more masculine plants. And the thing is transcending gender, genitals, any whatever social constructs of it. It's essentially what it means is feminine energy is considered more lunar energy, nurturing, maternal, intuitive, creative, nonlinear time. Masculine energy is more energy of the sunlight, grandfather fire. Yes, it's more elemental. Sorry, my cat is playing with her new toy. But yeah, so masculine and feminine, these are archetypal energies of the different plants that you work with, right? San Pedro, I've done, like I said, considered a masculine plant. It's also known as Wachuma. Trying to think what else, if I'm missing any that are worth talking about on the top list. I've personally never done Iboga, but Iboga, a dear friend of mine, Trisha Eastman, she works with the Bwiti, which are an African tribe that are based out of Gabon. And Iboga is a tree bark that, again, puts you into this ineffable realm. And they're finding that with Iboga, it's really an incredible teacher or ally for transcending addiction. They're finding really, really great information about Iboga, helping work through really, really difficult traumas, addictions, attachments. Another friend of mine, his name is Mike Zappalin, and he put out a documentary called The Reality of Truth, which I'd highly recommend. It's free on YouTube. You can learn more about rythmia, more about plant medicines, and it's a free, easy watch. The Reality of Truth. But he actually has a new documentary coming out because he had been working with a really high-profile celebrity to help him overcome traumatic brain injury and used Iboga, the African tree bark. So, again, like I said, I am no expert, but I am definitely an experiencer and happy to continue to share resources of really great books and professional platforms that do their due diligence and journalism around these subjects to help spread the word and make these medicines more accessible to all. So let's see. From the Hoichal Nation. And oh my gosh, the art from the Hoichal is amazing. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I've seen the beaded art. It's so, so beautiful. Other medicines that, I wouldn't say considered plant medicine, but hey, Lauren, so good to see you. Just talking plant medicine, things like that. Not plant medicine, but there's actually other psychedelic medicines. well, combo is not psychedelic. Combo is frog venom, and it's known to be used as a really great way to cleanse the lymphatic system. So combo, basically you receive combo. I did it once, and I had like four dots on my arm. So they burn your skin, and then you receive combo, which is a frog poison essentially. And what it does is you swell up, you get really hot, you purge, and then it clears out your lymphatic system. Typically, like for a combo session, they say that you're supposed to do 3 days in a row to cycle through it and really get the healing that you need. I only did it once. I had a really beautiful experience with it, and that's something I would recommend looking into. Kambo. And then there's also Bufo alvarius. So Bufo alvarius is the Sonoran desert toad, 5-MeO-DMT. This is something where if you listen to Joe Rogan, Mike Tyson went on and talked about his experience with toad completely changing his life. I had one experience with it, and it's not something that I personally would recommend. It's something that is for not for the faint of heart, and even for a seasoned traveler can be really overwhelming. But that's not to say that there's not benefit to it. With anything, do your due diligence, do your due research, make sure that you are working with trained professionals that know what they're doing in this space. This is me just sharing my own experiences, resources, things like that. But I'm an advocate for psychedelic medicines, and I'm an advocate for organizations like MAPS that, again, are finding the science and research behind why these medicines really have effects that can be life-changing, PTSD, anxiety, depression, things that our traditional paradigm of therapy wants to put a Band-Aid over, right? And I also don't think that there is anything wrong with treating something you're going through on the traditional route too. So trauma is a very tricky thing to work through. Personally, after I had lost my father, I went on Wellbutrin to cope with my anxiety, and it helped me through it. And eventually I stopped taking it, and it helped me get through a tough time. I think that there's a lot of shaming that goes on with mental health, and kind of transcending the stigma of which approach is right or what is the better thing is not doing a service to anyone. But there are therapies that transcend the traditional narrative that can be helpful too. It could be yes and, or no but. I think looking at all of it really is going to help us transcend the current paradigm we're at. And the Band-Aid model is not fixing anything, and trauma is tricky to surf through, So yeah, I hope this is helpful. Yeah, I mean, and through it all, the thing is that, like, especially so if you've like somehow found Evolve and Ascend and you're here and you're interested in these things, there can be a lot of kind of like rabbit holes that you wind up down where this looks like the cure-all, or that feels like the answer to all these things. And what I can say is that, like, Jodorowsky, and I will share this quote probably almost every time I go on a live, but Jodorowsky has a quote about how, psychedelics are taking the elevator up, but you should take the stairs on the way down. And, when you have peak experiences or want to find this cure-all, or want to say like, oh my God, now I've touched this, so where do I go to next? And what do I go to next? I found myself in this similar trap last year. If you know me at all or have followed my story, I used to have breast implants, and I got them like a year after my dad passed away. So I was like 22 years old. I didn't know what I was doing. I was hyper insecure, and I thought somehow having implants would make me love myself more. It didn't. That's a, long story short. But they tell you when you get breast implants that every 10 years they need to be replaced. And they kind of skim over it. And for me, being a 22-year-old, just wanting to have big boobs, it's like, 10 years, what's that? Hi. But what they don't tell you is that it doesn't matter if you have saline implants, silicone implants, the casing, the outer shell is actually made out of silicone. So even though silicone itself is an inert substance, after 6 years, the silicone starts to degrade in your body. And what it does is your body starts replicating the effects of autoimmune. So a lot of people, a lot of women that have breast implants will find that 5-6 years in, they think that they have Lyme disease or some kind of autoimmune disease. Symptoms start to come up, like your hair starts falling out in chunks. You have exhaustion, fatigue that you can, no matter how much coffee you drink, no matter what you do, it never goes away. For me, it was the hair falling out, brain fog, exhaustion, fatigue, kidney pain, night sweats. I couldn't sleep at all. Every morning I'd wake up and I don't have any makeup on right now. I have this stupid filter on just to have some sparkle, but every morning I would wake up and my skin was just so gray and dull and dead, and I had big bags under my eyes. My eyes were completely yellow. I thought I was dying. So when I reached about the 10-year mark of having breast implants, I really just what? I don't feel like it's an integrity for me to have these in my body anymore. I just feel like the person I was when I got them is not the person I am now, so it's time to get them out. And in my research, what I found in looking about just having my breast implants taken out was about breast implant illness. And I actually read an article that was written by Crystal Hefner, who is the wife of the late Hugh Hefner. And I saw her article and I'm like, holy shit, I have every single one of these symptoms that she said. And make a long story short, I wound up having my implants removed by the same doctor that Crystal went to. And if you're interested in it, you can DM me afterwards. I'll send you my article on it. But the night that I had them removed, it was like night and day. I went from thinking I was dying every day to that night, my skin, everything just went sucked back to normal. And here I am almost a year and a half later, and I feel like a completely different person. And I shoot up every morning between 6:30 and 7. My entire body has changed, and I can't say I regret getting them, because I'm grateful that I was able to share my story and empower people to realize no, you're not going crazy. No, if you have implants and you're not feeling good, there might be something to this. So after I got them taken out, I was on a real quest to just cleanse my body and get rid of all toxins. So about a year ago, I had this all ties back into the plant medicine story, because after I got them taken out, I was just I want to detox, I want to purge. So I had this psychedelic summer where I did ayahuasca, I did bufo, I did combo, I did psilocybin. I was just purge, purge, purge. Let me reach for the stars. I need to get back to my spirit, and how can I get here, and how fast can I get there? So to make a long story short, so from June until December, I had all of these journeys, and they resulted in ayahuasca being enough. If you don't have it by now, enough is enough. And I had, and there's never a good or a bad, right? And I'm sharing my experience of my more challenging ayahuasca trip, which I will share with you next, not to deter you from researching this path or to deter you from plant medicine, because I do believe in the value of this ancient, indigenous, beautiful technology. But I also believe that in the cautionary tale of chasing peak experiences and wanting to keep dancing with the divine and touching the inevitable, and then not giving yourself space to integrate. So crazy psychedelic summer. And then I was down at Rythmia to teach. Rythmia had their first ever LGBTQ IA++ week, and I was really lucky to have an opportunity to teach down there for that week and hold space. And I had my ass handed to me by plant medicine. So God, where do I even begin? I had a really challenging journey. And in that journey, it was like, boom, this is wrong. You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. Blah, blah, blah. And it was just so much. It shook me to my core. I questioned my spiritual beliefs. I felt like I had a demonic possession. It was really, really scary. I look back at that now and I'm like, thank you for doing Scared Straight on me ayahuasca, because this whole year has been about being a cautionary tale and sharing that everything, hold it in reverence, hold it in respect. Ayahuasca is something that I'd recommend maybe doing once a year as a check-in with your soul, as a check-in with your spirit. If you decide to go on the medicine path, it's something to not take lightly, to understand there's a cost that it takes to walk that path, and give yourself space to integrate. So having that journey in November, December, coming back and being like, oh my God, this was so intense. I spent the last year really and then between COVID and the climate of the world and all the awful things that have happened this year, I've gotten deeper into meditation. And going back to the Jodorowsky quote, taking psychedelics is like taking the elevator up, take the stairs down. You can get to that space through breath, through meditation, through silence, through listening. It's just not as easy. It requires more discipline. It's not there's no shortcut on that path. And they all work together. There's no right or wrong way, but give yourself space to integrate. So that's been definitely a big part of my journey. And integration is key. Hold on one second, Kira. No. Just trying to get a little more comfortable. If you just joined or if you've been tuning in the whole time, I've just been kind of recovering from having to put down my beloved familiar spirit, and I got a new kitten today, and she's really beautiful and really cute and playing in the background. So, yeah. So again, if you're just tuning in, if you watch this after the fact, resources, professionals, doing your due diligence, research, taking the time to really, really research is so important if you decide that plant medicine is right for you. Rainforest Medicine, Jonathan Miller Weisberger, When Plants Dream by Daniel Pinchbeck and Sophia Rockland, and theonation.com, free resource, really great blogs, really well researched. Doubleblind.com or doubleblindmag.com is their online platform. Double Blind Magazine is in print. MAPS, Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Research, that's run by Rick Doblin, and they're doing all the science and work behind everything. Copy is another really great resource, KAHPI, Copy. They work with Indigenous elders and really just speak off about the history of these plants, right? And what else? I know I'm missing something else that came to the forefront. It'll probably come to me after the fact. Oh, Reset Me. I don't know if the platform is still around, but when I was first going on the path and considering working with psychedelic medicines, Amber Lyon is a award-winning journalist, and she had experiences with plant medicine and decided to dedicate her life to the path. And she had put out a platform called Reset Me, which is people sharing their personal stories from medicines, which is really helpful to be like, is this right for me? Is this not right for me? How can I learn from other people's experience? And to also, again, not get glammed on the idea that this is going to be a cure-all, because you'll have a peak experience, you'll elevate up, and you'll think you'll all have it all figured out, but then life inevitably hits. So, yes, these can help you transcend everyday consciousness and awaken you to ineffable spaces, but giving yourself room to integrate, embody, and have tools in your spiritual toolkit to keep your feet planted firmly on the ground when you get shot up into hyperspace. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that, you've enjoyed this chat. Yeah, so I had said in the beginning of this too, it would be fun to do a little bit of an oracle card pull beyond plant medicine. So if you're tuning in and have a question or want to just see what's up with the collective, I'm going to pull some cards to just move on from the plant medicine conversation. So for those of you who don't know, I've been reading oracle cards since I was a kid, since I was 8 years old. My grandmother taught me, and this is her deck. It's of unknown origin. I've had it since I was a kid. The closest deck to this style is the Lenormand style, but try as I might, I've never been able to find out where it's from, what it is. My grandmother passed away when I was 13, so I can't ask her. My dear friend Richie Brown and I had these really interesting experiences with the deck that he put into an oracle deck of his own, which he called Brown Magic. RichieBrowntown.com. I don't know if it's still stocked, but you can read about these cards there. So oracle cards are different than tarot cards because tarot cards are, the expression of the kind of like the blueprint of the soul into form. You have the major and minor arcana, which the major arcana is the fool's journey of understanding the way of the world, and the minor arcana is more like the elements and archetypes that you meet along the path. There's always the same 78 cards, and it's always the same journey, but it's just different artwork. The most popular deck is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. That is the most common one you'll see, but there's also really great modern iterations of the tarot that, depending on what your style and preference is, you can find one that works right for you. My favorite tarot deck at the moment is Best Tarot by Mike Castani, and I'm not just saying that because I got to draw a card in it, but it makes me feel really good every time I pull one. I'll show you guys this actually, 1 second. So Best Tarot, this is the deck. And it basically came from an experiment that Mike did where we all had to draw a tarot card by memory. And it's really fun. So basically, we can pull some cards from here too. Got nothing else going on. So Mike had asked a bunch of different artists and creatives and thinkers to come over for a night where basically we each didn't get to choose which tarot card we wanted per se, but we'd pick it at random and then have to draw it from memory. So you pick it, look at it for 30 seconds, and then draw. So I'm going to pull... how many cards should I pull? Whoever responds first is the number that I'll do. Or if you don't respond, I'm just going to do 3. So I'll just do 3. Okay. 7 of Cups. Upside down moon. And upside down Ace of Swords. All right. I'm going to do 5. Upside down 5 of Wands. And right side up King of Cups. So I'm not completely off book on the tarot. I am more of an oracle card reader. Oracle cards are more of like the Rorschach test, inkblot test. Say what you feel, see how you interpret it. The tarot is an art form that requires so much study and diligence. So if we're going to look through these cards as a collective reading, let's see what they say. So we have the right side up 7 of Cups, upside down moon, upside down Ace of Swords, upside down 5 of Wands, and right side up King of Cups. So when I typically do five card readings, I look at the card in the middle as like the crux of the issue, and then the 2 cards on the left or the 2 cards on the right being like the scales that balance it out. So here we are, like this is weighing on this side, this is weighing on the other side, and the middle is kind of like the balance of things. So 7 of Cups illusory choices and goals. So if we're looking at this as an issue for the collective, I would say that kind of makes a lot of sense for the time that we're in, because there's just options but not options. Like, what do we want? How can we get it? There's choices, but then there's also not choices. And what do those choices mean? How do we choose what actually will fill our cup up? And how can we fill our cup up first? The moon upside down. So typically, where are we? The moon. So right side up, it's like subconscious mind. So we're talking about like masculine and feminine energies in relating to plant medicine. So if we talk about masculine and feminine energies relating to the cards that we pulled, the moon is dealing with the subconscious mind, dream space, masculine, feminine consciousness. Like, if you, chematology is an Egyptian mystery school. Before Egypt was called Egypt, it was called Chem, which is the land of the black earth. And they talked a lot about the complete human, right? So the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. These are the two hemispheres of mind that control like masculine, feminine consciousness. So masculine consciousness is more considered left brain consciousness, which is solar energy, linear time, science, zeros and ones, really like the more like concrete science. Here's proof. Feminine consciousness is more like intuition, dream space, lunar energies, creativity, like more of like flow. So water, like the feminine energies, like more like watery energy. Masculine energies, like more the fire, right? So if we look at the moon being upside down next to the Seven of Cups, is how I'm going to interpret this. And feel free, anybody who's an expert here, if you want to interject how you would read this. But how I would read this, if we're reading for the collective, is that here we have choices, but we have not choices. Everything feels illusory. Everything feels like, what is the right choice to be made? And then the dreams, like our subconscious mind is being flipped upside down right now. I think a lot of us, especially as sensitives, our dreams have been really heinous through this. I've talked to so many people, whether you're a lucid dreamer or not. We're sensitive beings, humans, and we feel the collective weight of the world. So with the moon being upside down next to these illusory choices, it may be like, okay, what do we do with our dreams? Where are our dreams going? Like, how do we transmute a nightmare into something? How do we channel choice into something that can be effective and tangible in the world that we're in right now? Are we trusting our intuition? Do we feel like our intuition is off? How do we take our thought forms and take them and put them into formed thoughts? That's how I would read that. Ace of Swords being the crux. So Ace of Swords, so the invoked root of logic. So upside down next to everything, right? Doesn't feel very logical this time that we're in. I love the meme that I saw that said that anybody who's predicted where they'd be 20 years from now is fucking wrong. A lot of us, I don't think, really saw 2020 coming, and it's nothing to laugh about, but like without laughter, really, like you could cry. And like what happened to the murder hornets, it does feel sometimes like we actually all died in 2012 and like we're just in some bonkers timeline. So here we are, like, how do we make sense of change? How do we find logic when everything is so crazy? How do we find logic when we can't even trust our own intuition right now? And how do we channel the things that we're creating into something tangible? And how do we choose the choices that are going to inspire the world to be a better place and also make our lives more fruitful and enjoyable? So many energies, right? So on the other crux of the issue, so we have the Five of Wands, but it was upside down next to the King of Cups. So Five of Wands, agitated state, strife. So it's upside down. So I love this card because it actually reminds me, I saw another great meme about, I don't know if you guys remember years ago, there was like an island that somebody tried to come to, and they got shot to death by like the people that lived on the island, because they didn't want anybody there. And this actually looks like the aerial view of the islanders shooting bows and arrows at the white people trying to come in and disrupt their flow. But I'm making jest of this, but it being upside down, I think, bearing weight on the collective and the weight of the world, is it does feel like we're in a lot of strife. The election is coming up. We're in Mercury retrograde. We're about to enter Scorpio season. Have we entered Scorpio season yet? I mean, it's like intense astrology. It's intense times. It's intense everything. The collective shadow is coming to the forefront for us to look at and see and work through. I remember almost a year ago, I had put on an event and I was speaking to my friend, Dr. Miles Neal, who's amazing. He's a Buddhist and psychotherapist, and he was saying how he read somewhere that the astrology has not been like this actually since World War II started. There's something crazy about like the astrology now not being this intense since back then, and it does feel like everything. We're just seeing the collective heaviness of our unresolved issues in the world. So we're looking at this as a collective. This is the collective strife that's feeding to us not being able to make sense of change, to not knowing how to trust and flow through our intuition, and to like, how do we choose? What is the best choice now? So it's nice at the end, the King of Cups. So I like this as an outcome card. So if we look at how things are weighing out, right? If the King of Cups is our outcome, this is ruling with creativity and emotion. So I love to speak in metaphor. I love to speak in pop culture metaphor. And I repeat myself a lot because the most pertinent metaphors for me come from like the nostalgia and fantasy films of the 90s. And right now it feels like we're kind of, if you've seen The Never-Ending Story, what we are working through is surviving the nothing, this all-consuming nothing, not getting lost in the swamps of sadness, because this overwhelming feeling of nothing coming is really like, it's a lot. But what's going to get us through this time are the creatives, are the Imagineers, are the people that are channeling their thoughts into action. And the world, I forget who said this quote, but the world now needs new storytellers, new myth makers, new creatives, new artists, new people that are putting their imagination to the forefront and imagining a better world and not letting the nothing take over. So the beauty, social media can be really hard, right? Social media can be really triggering. Social media can be really tense. Social media can show you a lot of the ugly of the world, but it also can be a bridge to connect you to like-minded spirits and souls to have conversations like this right now. It's a tool. So whatever you create, whatever you do, whatever you use it as a tool, not as a weapon, and that can be what you build with. Whatever the outcome of this election is, it's going to be traumatizing wherever you fall. There's bound to be a lot of tension and really intense emotions in November, and wherever it is, focus on what it is that you can control, right? This is what I'm trying to do personally, talking to friends. This is something that I think a lot of us are trying to focus on, like, what can you control? What can you create? What actions can you take where you can be the King of Cups and creating and letting your cup flow over and making your life and world a better place, and the ripple effect coming through. So that's how I would read that. Again, I'm not a tarot expert. I am a forever student. I am more of the oracle reader, but I would say that's a pretty prescient reflection for the world. And I mean, everything connects, right? Macro, micro, as within, so without, as above, so below. There's wisdom in all the things, and take what resonates, discard what doesn't. But I think ultimately the takeaway from that reading, as I say, is that even if things seem upside down and you don't know what to choose or how your intuition is guiding you or how to make sense of change, focus on what you can create and trust your imagination, and let that be the tool that helps you transcend the strife of the current climate of the world. So let's see how that matches up to the oracle cards that we'll pull. So this, I'm so glad that it resonated. I mean, maybe this is a good format to do. Pick a topic, talk a little bit, do an oracle card, tarot reading. I'm open to all suggestions. I really am enjoying this. It's good to connect with you all, and it's really nice to be here. So, hello, hi, thanks for joining. All right, so with these cards, I always pull 4. All right, 2. Interesting. Okay, so thank you. I got these, I think in like 2000. I think I was in high school when I got these, to be honest with you. Probably like 2002. And they're not even real gold, so they've held up pretty well. But I love them, and I'm glad that you do too. So I'm going to try and get all 4 cards up at once. So this is how they fell. All of them upside down. So we have, I'll show you each of them. We have this upside down. The blonde man upside down. Looking, so to my left, so looking to the left. Then we have a gift upside down. Then we have our heart upside down. And then we have the brunette man looking to the right. So you can see, like, sorry, I'm dyslexic. They're both looking these ways, and in the way that the cards are facing, the blonde man is looking to the left. The brown-haired man is looking to the right. So it's interesting how I would divine this compared to our tarot reading. So we have, this is now, again, continuing talking about like masculine as an energy, not as a gender, more like what is this energy? So we have this blonde man looking off to the left, upside down. We, again, at a time where intuition and logic, neither the two meet right now. It's a very, very, very intense time that we're in. So logic and intuition being upside down, looking to the left, wondering like what is on the horizon? How do I make sense of change? The gift being upside down, whenever I get this card, it represents, like, to me, it's like double entendre meaning. So it could be the gift, like your gifts, your inherent gifts, gift coming to you, the present moment. There's so many layers to the meaning of this gift card, but with it being upside down next to the person looking off into the distance, wondering what's happening with the world, I would say that the meaning of this is that the gift of the present sometimes can be elusive in the time that we're in. Like, how do we find presence in the present moment? How do we find the gift in the present moment when we can't fully enjoy our lives? We're worried. Are we going to get sick? What's going to happen in the election? What's going to happen in the world? Am I going to get sick? Am I going to get somebody else sick? Wherever you fall on the spectrum of what's going on with COVID, you might have like frustrations, like the mask, like whatever. I don't want to talk about any of that stuff. I am not a follower of the plandemic narrative at all. I think that documentary is terrible. So just putting that out there right now, like, I think Mikey Willis is like a terrible person for putting that out. So I digress. Hey, Beth. The gift of the present may be hard to connect to and find logic for because of the way things are. So the gift being next to the upside down heart card too is that, like, the collective feels heavy. I don't know if this is something you're all experiencing too, like just the weight of the world. Like, I have moments where it's like hard for me to like catch my breath, literally. Like it's very weird how many layers of like COVID affecting the lungs. The fact that like so many of the fires in California were affecting like our trees, the Amazon was on fire. The collective lungs of the world have been attacked, whether it's like through a macro, micro, literal, physical, metaphysical way. And grief actually is held in the lungs in Chinese medicine. They believe that's the place where we like hold on to our grief. So there's a collective grieving, I think, happening in the world right now too. So a heaviness of the heart that's taking away from our time of our present, looking to wonder like how to incorporate logic and intuition. Where do we go? What do we do? What's going on? But then looking up into the kind of like final outcome, or like trying to synthesize it all together, you know, also looking forward. Things may be upside down right now, but if you tuned into the last Facebook, Instagram live that I did, I was doing readings from the Tao Te Ching, and the Tao Te Ching is like this reconciliation of paradox, like how doing is actually like impedes progress, that sometimes not doing is actually doing. So being upside down, looking to the future, like this might be a time to create and like really follow that flow of imagination, but to also not do. So to reconcile the paradox of like do if it feels good, but to also like flow, and to find like a way to find your own rhythm in the world. So like I think this is like the common rub with a lot of the law of attraction stuff too, is that like write it out, pray to it every day, meditate on it every day, visualize it every day. It's like a very masculine, aggressive way of being like, I'm going to visualize the thing, and then I'm going to have the thing, and before you know it, I'm going to be driving the car. But sometimes the not doing allows that to come through. Exactly, tempering. And then the temperance was well, you talked about temperance, and then we had that passage in the Tao. So this might be a time too to just not do a little bit. I actually I love the Tao, and if there's a book too that I would recommend beyond any of the plant medicine books right now, the Tao Te Ching. It's free online too, because it's like a super ancient text, but if you get that, it's really, really good. So finding a way to like do and not do, to hold both. So as a collective, how I'd look at it right now is this week may be more uncertainty that may test our logic and intuition and take away from our connection to the present. It may weigh heavy on the heart. So the not doing may be as much as the doing. So if I'm going to look at this as like, okay, here's a reading for right now. Be gentle and flow a little more this week. Maybe not be so aggressive of the things that you want. Just breathe, feel, and be a little more like water. Like the Bruce Lee quote, to be like water, to be malleable, and to not force so much. So that was that from Grandma's deck. Kind of piggybacks off of the tarot, the best tarot reading that we did too. And I'll just pull one Amenti card as an affirmation to leave y'all with. So the Amenti cards are actually my deck. I am the author of the guidebook that was created in collaboration with like my soul sister, best friend, amazing gift of a human, Natalie Miller. Her art is just out of this world amazing. This is like the tuck box. But these are based off of the 42 ideals of Ma'at or Mayet, depending on how you pronounce it, which are basically the positive affirmations to counterbalance the negative confessions of Ma'at. So in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it's believed that your heart is weighed by her feather. And if your heart is as light as the feather of Ma'at, you can pass through to the next life. But if your heart is heavy, you get devoured by Amet, gotta go through everything again. So in this weighing of the heart ceremony, which is, overseen by Osiris, Anubis, like the major netters are there for it, they believe that there's like 42 negative confessions. So it's like, I have not committed sin. I have not. But the 42 ideals are more positive affirmations. So like, how do I live a light heart? I am, I have been. These are the things that I am in the world. So we did a take of the 42 ideals of Ma'at and tried to find a way to take ancient wisdom and make it modern. So these cards can be used as a tool of divination, but really like they're great affirmations or things to meditate on. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad to see you on here. So I'm going to pull, I can pull one, but, oh, sorry, I dropped some stuff. But I can pull a few since we have 12 on here now. I can pull one as like an affirmation to meditate on, and maybe pull some other cards for anybody that wants to chime in. So if I'm going to pull an affirmation for us to reflect on for the week. That's really interesting. So the card that I pulled, I honor animals with reverence, which is a really weird card. I mean, like, everything connects. So if this resonates with you, please hold it, take it. If it doesn't, discard it. So I honor animals with reverence. So in ancient Egypt, cats were like regarded as royalty. Cats, like, you'd be severely punished if you hurt a cat. So it's interesting, you know, today I got a new kitten. 2 weeks ago I lost my beloved familiar. But if we're to look at this card as like a collective card, to honor animals with reverence is to really honor the divine archetypes that these sacred creatures offer to the world. Everything connects. Macro, microcosmic level. The universe is a great theater of mirrors, like my favorite spiritual teacher Alice Bailey says. So if we're to look at this as like an affirmation for the week, thinking of like a totem spirit, your spirit's familiar, or an animal that has like an energy that you really want to embody, connect to that this week, honor that this week. Here we have the hummingbird, we have the cat, and we have the snake, and those are all really, really powerful spirits to connect to. You know, the hummingbird is just this tiny, beautiful messenger that flies so fast, and its lightness helps it traverse the world with grace. The animal, that feline archetype, is like, a friend of mine really like said it well, that felines are great teachers because they know boundaries. So if you're looking at a feline, it's like maybe like exercise your boundaries, maybe connect to your like sexuality a little more, like your fluidity. Or, you know, if you connect to the snake is powerful medicine because it's lessons in transformation. The snake sheds its skin and it's still the snake, just transforms. So what do you need to shed? What do you need to let go of? To honor animals with reverence is to just see how you relate to every life, from little lives to big lives to whatever it is. You know, you can even look at an ant and look at that as an amazing archetype to embody, because ants, they're about cooperation, and the ant is so strong. It's so tiny, yet it can carry like 500 times the size of its body weight. I used to take the supplement called Polyrachus ants, which is disgusting, but it's for strength. And if you just look at the ant like that, like, they can build these amazing things. They cooperate in service of the queen, and they can carry like so many times their body weight. So that's a really great affirmation, is that like wherever you fall in the spiritual spectrum, if you need to channel some strength this week, look to the lion. Like, just look to an archetype that helps you identify an energy and find a way to channel and embody it. Oh, amazing. A frog medicine. Yeah, I love combo. I was talking about that earlier. I got my dots right here. Can't see them. Sorry, I'm dyslexic, so can't figure out how to like move the camera. So okay. I can pull another card. I'm gonna pull this one. Sinari Morales. What is your name? Let me know your name just so I can connect to you, not just call you the screen name. And hello from Chile, Julian. So I'm gonna pull a card for you. And Ilona, if you'd like, I can pull one for you too. So Natasha. Hi, Natasha. This one's for you. All right. listen to opposing opinions. So this is the card. Give you a moment to check it out. I listen to opposing opinions. So this card, the proverb that I was inspired by around it is that for the benefit of the flowers, or for the benefit of the rose, we water the thorns too. For the benefit of the rose, we water the thorns too. So thinking about listening to opposing opinions. There's lessons to be learned in listening. Active listening is a really great Jedi tool. So often when we're triggered by somebody that has an opposing opinion, or somebody that can be really challenging, whether they have a different spiritual, political, economic, whatever their belief is that differs from yours, they can be so easy to bring up feelings like, oh my God, how can you think this way? I've definitely had those moments many times. I actually had my last Instagram live because I got into this back and forth argument with one of our followers because they were really angry that I posted the meme about spirituality without shadow work isn't true spirituality, which I stand by. But I found myself falling into why aren't you listening to me again? So we don't want to do that. We want to be like Jedis in the world and hold space for all opinions and learn how to play with ideas gracefully. So if this week at all you're met with opposing opinions, actively listen. I get caught in these loops sometimes where I do this, I identify other people doing this where you're just waiting for your turn to talk. So you're not actually listening to what the other person says. You just are holding your opinion and waiting to just talk, right? And hear yourself. So a good thing this week is to just maybe listen, hold space for it, find empathy, and play with the other idea gracefully. One of the great conversational tools that are a Jedi Master tool is instead of responding with your opinion is asking more questions. So that allows the other person to answer things on their own, right? So it's oh, that's interesting. Why do you feel that way? Oh, interesting. What do you feel about that? Oh, interesting. How did you land there? Those are really great tools that if we can master this art of conversation, it becomes more empowering. It's so hard not to want to find the rebuttal for the trigger and be especially, with the political stuff, right? Very hard. But if you can hold space for your heart and to just listen and identify and observe, there's great growth that can come for it. So tending to the flowers, we water the thorns too. So I hope that was helpful, Natasha. Ilona, I'm going to pull one for you. Yes. That is that's the move, right? I try desperately to do it, but we're human. And it's really hard not to be why? How? But there's a way to be oh, why? How? Interesting. A friend of mine who I miss so much, it's so hard to do this too, but one of the greatest pieces of advice he gave me too is the fastest way to win an argument is just admit when you're wrong, which is hard because we may not be wrong on an opinion that we have, or right, wrong is a subjective thing, but you can't fight fire with fire. You can't fight hate with hate. Listening is a great tool. So Ilana, hi Virginia. What is this requesting to be in my live video? All right. Alona, this is for you. I speak positively of others. This is something that, just since we've connected online, you have been such a beautiful, wonderful human being that I see doing this, and you cheerlead me and make me feel good all the time. So speaking positively of others, maybe there's somebody in your life this week that needs to hear some of your goodness, some of your love. Maybe there is somebody in your life that is like a negative influence and like is causing like that brightness not to come out as much. Whoever it is, maybe create a bigger boundary so that you can be more of that bright, sparkling, shining, beautiful human being that I witness you are in the world. Or maybe there's somebody again that like needs to be encouraged or to have positive words of affirmation. Wherever it is, stay feather light and balance both hemispheres of mind, and also still remember boundaries. So I don't know why that came up. That was like an intuitive thing. That's not even like fully the definition of this card, as you know. But for me, something came up is just like in case there is like a friendship or something, like boundaries. Create boundaries and protect that beautiful heart of yours. I'm glad that it landed. Cool. Yeah, you're such a wonderful being. And again, like the internet can be a weapon, it can be a tool. And for me, like in some ways, it feels like a weapon when you get lost scrolling and playing the comparison game or the trigger game. But then it becomes a tool when you meet like beautiful friends and minds and creators like all of you, like Ilona. Everything is balanced, right? Like this scale with the heart and the feather. Anybody else would like me to pull a card for them? I'm going to pull a few more before I head off and go play with my new little baby kitty. She's so cute. She's sleeping on the bed right now. So, yeah. Anybody want to chime in before I pop off if would like a card? I pull a few more. It's interesting. Last time Betty Nugs, yes, and Virginia, sure. Last time I pulled an Amenti card for myself was I Am Kind, which is it's like weird sometimes revisiting these. Like, doesn't even feel like I feel like they're not mine. Because Natalie's art is just so unbelievable, and a lot of the writing done, I was like literally like channeling, so I'll read something and be like, whoa. But the I Am Kind was really good because I was going through just deep grief of this loss and not being so kind to myself. So the I Am Kind one is good. Okay, Jessica. Yes, Rocio. Cool. All right, Jessica first, then Virginia. And then sending you so much love too. I am still on the live, my dear Valeria. I'm enjoying this. This is like good getting in the swing of like putting my face out there and feeling good about it. So okay. Jessica. All right. So Jessica. Oh, that's so interesting because the last card that I showed was this one. Oh, I'm scrolling in the wrong direction. Sorry. So, I do the best I can. So I love this card. I do the best I can, right? So she is here to remind us of, you know, best is a subjective thing. Like we set goalposts for ourselves where if we don't reach them, we feel disappointed. We can be hard on ourselves sometimes, right? But if we're really trying in that moment with our heart of hearts, with all of our heart and soul, that is doing the best that we can in that given moment. Best is like a nebulous, ever-shifting, ever-changing thing. The best for yourself one day may not be the best the next day. So doing the best that you can. So if you've been hard on yourself at all and feeling like, God, I could have done better, or like, am I not doing the best I can? Be a little more gentle and to realize like best is an ever-changing thing. There is no limit to the sky. You can keep reaching further and further and further and further. If you felt hard on yourself, like you weren't doing your best, now the call is to like recalibrate and know that even when it's not your best, it's still your best. You're doing the best that you can with all things considered. There are so many things working against us as a collective right now to hit our goalposts, to hit our achievements, to do this, to do all the things that we want to do, to be all the things that we want to be the very best. You can have a moment where like, I'm feeling my ultimate best, and then you turn on the news and you just like want to like crawl up in a ball and like not leave the house. Or with work, with any of this, like it can be so hard on our spirit of endeavor. But this is a card to remind you to realize that you're always doing the best that you can, even when you feel like you may not be, and to just keep doing the best that you can, because it will get better in time. Know that the power is within you. Like you'll see if you tune on to more of these, I quote often the same kind of sources, like Neverending Story, Fantasies. I've said this one before too, is like the Wizard of Oz is the great metaphor for knowing that the power is within you all along. So if you have a day where you felt you were doing your best and maybe somebody else like deterred your progress, or like gave you a comment or an insult or something that made your spirit not feel so good, know that the power is in you. You can only like inflame something as much as you allow. So if that happens, like just like looking at her hands and being like, no, I am doing the best I can. I do the best I can. I am the best possible person I can be, even in moments where I feel like I'm not being that. So I hope this all makes sense. Intuitively too, I'm just getting a reminder to not be so hard on yourself, and that, you know, you are doing your best and you'll only get better. And every day is a new day to try again. There's a really great program I did a while ago. I forget what it was called, but it was like through the Unity Church. And one of the things that stuck with me is that, like, especially like when we have a shit day, you're like, oh God, that day was wasted. Every day is a brand new baby day. So that day is like born into the world, and you can nurture it and create it to be whatever you want it to be. So that's a long-winded way of saying like you're doing great. You're only going to do better, and just keep doing your best. I hope that was helpful. So who is next? Virginia, are you still here? If you're still with me, oh, yay! Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You're so welcome. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. Somebody had reached out to me a few days ago and said, like, you know, they've been following my work for a while, and then they shared with me that, like, I visited them in a dream. So I love the idea of being, like, cosmic fairy godmother. So I'm so glad, Mama Witch. I never identify as a witch. I don't know what I am. I'm more of an 11 than a Sabrina. At least in my thoughts. So Virginia, here is your card. And Jessica, thank you. Thank you for being open to receive that. Thank you for being here. I converse with awareness. So, this is the card that you got. So, here we see this beautiful woman speaking her words into reality. So, abracadabra, you know, the great magical word, actually is loosely translated as I speak, I create. I create as I speak. So sometimes without realizing it, the way we speak actually enforces limiting beliefs into our reality. So can't, don't, won't. Researching the etymology of words is a really interesting practice I found myself getting into a lot, because words are vibrations. They cast spells. It's called spelling for a reason. You know, you're casting a spell with the words that you use in the world. You're casting limiting beliefs into the world with every can't, won't, don't. Conversing with awareness helps transcend those limiting vibrations of words, right? So etymology as a concept. So a word that I found myself using a lot is excited. I am always excited. I am an overly enthusiastic person sometimes. Then I researched the etymology of excited, and it actually means anxious. So every time I'm saying I'm excited, I'm actually saying out in like some kind of a larger sense of the historical connotation of this word is that I'm anxious. And what is anxious but not in the present? So they say when you're depressed, you're worried, you're thinking too much about the past. When you're anxious, you're worrying too much about the future. So I still say excited, but knowing that, I try to shift and choose different words. So to converse with awareness is that maybe there are words that you're choosing in your reality that are keeping you in a construct that is not opening more doors for you. Like, are you speaking negatively to yourself? Are you thinking negatively to yourself? How is your inner monologue going in your mind? Are you finding yourself in negative feedback loops where oh God, I want to do this, but I can't, or I want that, but no, or just being negative or hard on yourself? Conversing with awareness, giving yourself new tools, identifying the language that you use, casting better spells into the world, using your magic of your words, whether it's spoken, written, in your inner monologue, to craft and create a better reality for yourself. So we're just coming off the heels of a new moon, which is a time for like planting seeds, for putting our intentions in the world so that they can come to fruition by the time that we reach the full moon. The full moon this month is, we have 2 full moons this month, but the next one, I forget when the last one was, but the next one is on Halloween of all times. So this is a good time to kind of like riding that energy. Mercury's in retrograde too, which is not like really a good time for signing contracts or anything, but it's a good time for getting clear, right? Like identifying my limiting beliefs, identifying the way I speak to myself, identifying the way that I speak to others, conversing with awareness. That's the key. You know, you see here like the words that she's putting out into the world, like blue is the throat chakra, green and pink are both considered like the colors of the heart. So when you speak, when you think, when you act, when you do, when you write, remember the heart. And talking about every day as a brand new baby day. Sometimes when we get into negative feedback loops of how we talk about ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we speak without even being aware, would you say those words to you if you were a baby? Would you say those words to you as a little child? You know, how would you speak to yourself in a tender way that would nurture growth? That's the call to action right now. So converse with awareness, be kind, speak greater words, create with greater words, cast your spells with the magic of your words. I hope that makes sense, Virginia. Converse with awareness. So, yes, you got it. And then Rocio, then Jarrett. So, if you're still here with me, Rocio, please let me know. You're so welcome, Joyce. Thank you for being here. It was a bummer for me because when I moved to LA, I couldn't bring all my books with me, but I tried to bring my favorites, which are a lot of really good ones. And a lot of the ones that I have are in public domain because I like to be able to share resources, especially because we're all tight. Thank you. Have a gorgeous day. We're tight on money, you know, in today's time. So like when I read from the Tao Te Ching or from the Gnostic Gospels, these are things that you can find online for free. Anything that's in the public domain, you can find for free. So a lot of the esoteric books that I like to share, it's just like, it's nice to have free resources, especially when like we're in COVID times. So, Rocio. I am trustful in my relationships. I am trustful in my relationships. I love this card. This is actually one of my favorite cards in the deck because it reminds me a lot of the OA. And just like how we're all, every passage through an age is a passage through a phase, and we're all connected to each other. It doesn't matter what lifetime or lifeline, we're all connected. So being trustful in our relationships. So the message that I would get from this card is like, are there relationships in your life right now that you're reevaluating? Are there anybody that's in your life right now that is causing you to feel distrust or not trustful? Who are the people in your life that you can hold closer and be trustful to? What I would say, like the call to action from this card is to like really take a look at those that like maybe are calling forth feelings of like distrust and worry, and create a bigger boundary. And then to look to the relationships that you are able to like trust more and to have more of that like kinship with, and tend to them and nurture them. Now's the time. I'm not sure how old you are. But as with any time in life, sometimes friend breakups can be really hard. Maybe even more so than like a romantic relationship, because with a friend, like you're really becoming vulnerable. They know the secrets of secrets. They see you at your best, worst, all of that. when you have an issue with a friend, it can be really heartbreaking because depending on the person, some people will weaponize the things that you share and throw it in your face or make you feel bad about it. And then it causes you to get into a cycle of like, can I trust anybody? Can I open my heart again? Can I let my guard down? Can I be trustful in my relationships? With everything, even if it's like a heartbreak, our heart breaks to open us up more, and it's like very hard to feel it in those times. But there's a really great it's like a Japanese art concept called kintsugi. So when something breaks, instead of discarding the object is actually repaired with gold, so that the brokenness doesn't become something that like makes it ugly or not wanted. It actually is something that makes it more beautiful. So if there's been somebody that's like broken your heart or hurt you or caused you to not trust, repair it with gold by tending deeper to the relationships that there is trust with and letting more of that in. When somebody leaves your life, it's not a loss, it's a creation of space, right? It's creating space for something new. It's creating space for something new to emerge. It's creating space for more of the relationships that connect to your highest self, to connect to your highest purpose, that make you feel good. Again, that quote, we're all reflections in the hall of great mirrors, right? Like the universe is a great hall of mirrors. I know that you're like adept in astrology and you're on this path too. So I'm not, sorry, I got a phone call. I should have put it on do not disturb. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but this is just a reminder that you're a trustworthy person. So call more of that trustworthiness in. And if anybody is hurting you or causing you to have feelings of like, can I trust this person or do I not trust this person? Create a boundary and have a friend breakup. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. That's the thing, trusting your intuition. Sometimes when these things come through, I'm like, should I share this? Should I not share this? But it's trusting that like divine energy flowing through. And 42, you're in the heart number. So 42 is 6 in numerology. And friend breakups are hard, but they create space for something new. And they allow us to identify the things that we don't want as much as what we do want. So love to you too, beautiful friend. I'm so glad that you're here. And trust. You're a trustful person, and if anybody's hurting you, time to let it go. So who is next? So then we had Jarrett Holyfield. Jarrett, are you still here? If you're still here, Jarrett, let me know. Otherwise, we can scroll down because Akasha 432 hertz, whatever. Can you please let me know your name? Because I'd love to be able to call you by your name. Cool, you're still here. So here we go. I'll pull a card for you too. And thank you all for still being here. I don't know if there's like any days of the week that work better, or like just doing these sporadically and randomly are fun. I'm an Aries only child, and I tend to kind of like fly by my seat sometimes. So the last few lives I've been doing have just been like, all right, I'm feeling good, I'm gonna pop on. But again, like I really love your comments and direct messages. So if like you say like Sunday night oracle card readings and talking about a topic, or whatever day pulling from the Tao Te Ching. Oh, I'm an Aries sun, Pisces moon, Capricorn rising. So what are your sun and moon signs? It's Joanna. Okay, Joanna, you're next. So Jarrett, I do good. So I do good. So she is a really if you want, I can read from the Gemini rising, Scorpio sun. Oh, amazing. So this is your time, Scorpio season. So for Jarrett, I do good. So I can intuit, but then we can also pull from the book, because some of the definitions can also be helpful too. And this is one of those where I feel like it's definitely helpful to get a little bit from the book too. So, I do good. Where are you? This is the thing in hindsight with this deck. We didn't number the cards. So the guidebook, like, it's not really the most ideal. So for the next cards that we do, I'll definitely have them numbered. That was the biggest complaint that we got from a lot of our reviews, is that the cards weren't numbered. So 34. All right. Okay. I do good. So this is a good one. It's not too long, and then I'll intuit what it means for you. Here she is. So in physics, the conservation of energy means that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to the other. Emotional gradients gradually fade in and out of consciousness depending on what lesson life leads us through and how the mind makes sense of the mysteries of the phenomenal world. Laughter, tears, and orgasm are all ecstatic releases in their own right. Coordinates of consciousness rooted in the heart center. Happiness, as the effervescence within the heart space, is so special because when life shows us contrast, sense memories remind us that although what comes up must go down, melancholia's monotony can transform if we recall the power of a smile when things appear to go south. The nebulousness of emotion and how energy is conserved can present a challenge when attempting to do good in every effort, especially if you're looking to live in alignment with this particular ideal. The nebulous notion of good is often subjective, a construct of culture and imagination. What truly defines something as the antithesis of bad can be theorized to be the energy behind an action. And as energy is something that can neither be created but rather cultivated and transformed, we empower the invisible world by embodying heart-based emotions in our actions, reactions, choices, and connections. Good, as a primary option, is an offering or an articulation of the way of kind deeds, warm words, and a devotion to being the best possible person you can be. The etymology of gospel finds its truest root in the Greek word evangelion, meaning good news. An ancient tradition spoke of the most sacred actions and greatest stories of all time from lip to ear. Good books which spread good news allow words to exist in three-dimensional objects, so that the testimonies of history and the accounts of the great mysteries can be studied and observed. Goodness embodies, allows for an existence which is history in motion, emotion expressed in the highest form, energy transformed into a testimony of a life lived in alignment with loving kindness, and a conservation of affection to cause an effect to a world in need. With every deed done, time becomes dented with dignity. Human hearts expand further away from density, and the light of the earth shines brighter than ever before. So that's a long way of saying I do good. So maybe it's a time this week to give back. So I love you too, Valeria. Goodness creates a ripple effect, like to do it just to do is really like inspiring kindness in the world. So often I think a lot of the like law of attraction stuff, a lot of new age stuff talks about like, quid pro quo, like I've done this, so I should get that. Well, I put this out into the world, so what am I getting back? Sometimes to just do good is to do good, is to do good, is to do good. And the return that you get on it is just feeling good and knowing that you've inspired goodness into the world, a world that's in desperate need of that. So whether it's a friend, a parent, a relative, if there's somebody that you can like just say, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything that you need? How are you goes a really long way. So take a look at your life right now. And if there's anybody in your life that like maybe needs a helping hand or maybe needs a shoulder to cry on or maybe needs like a friend right now, like how can you do good in the world and not expect anything in return? But in return, you'll get so many great things. Doing good. So that's definitely the thing that I would say to like identify this week is like do good because it feels good to do. Call a friend, call a family member, tell your mom you love her, tell your parent you love them. Doesn't matter like if they're here in the terrestrial realm or if they're in the astral too, because not every one of us has both of our parents, but think kind thoughts, do kind deeds, create inspired action, because there are people in your life that need it right now. So I hope that was helpful for you, Jarrett. So who is next? I'm going to do like 2 more and then I will probably sign off. So, the next one is, where are you? Sorry, these got lost. Joanna, am I pronouncing that right? If you're still here, Joanna, give me a wave. Tell me hi. Oh, good. I'm so happy. Thank you for being here. So, Joanna, if you are here, give me a wave. Let me know. I'll pull a card for you. And then I'll do like 2 more. And then I'll probably continue binge watching Hannah, which I highly recommend. If you have Amazon Prime and you're into things, I keep plugging this. This isn't sponsored by Amazon Prime. I wish it was. But it's a good show if you like Stranger Things and the OA and things like that. I'm not seeing Joanna respond. So maybe we'll move to the next person. Angel. Angel, are you still here? Because we'll do Angel and then we'll do Cesar and then I'll sign off. So Angel, if you're here, wave. Cesar, if you are here. Oh, you're here. Okay, cool. Sorry, maybe there was a delay. So Joanna, Angel, Cesar, and then I'm off to watch Hannah. So here we go. I honor virtue. I honor virtue. She's actually the first out of the 42 ideals. So honoring virtue, it's like the template that the 42 ideals are shaped around. So how can we honor virtue? So virtue is a really interesting word to reflect on. Like, what does it mean to live a life of virtue? What does it mean to be virtuous? Virtue is a verb, right? It's an action, it's a doing. It's how do we embody this? So there's different pillars of virtue that we can like incorporate into our lives to like feel a deeper connection to stability and to have like more foundations within our truth. So how I would read this for you is something like, I honor virtue. So how are you honoring your authenticity and what feels good to you? Like, what are the pillars of your life that need to be tended to? Are there people trying to shake your foundation? Is there things in your life right now that are kind of like shaking the ground that you're on? So it's like hard for you to stand tall and like who you are and fully embody it. So tending to the structures in your life and saying like, okay, how can I make this stronger? How can I make this better? This first card, it's not like a long definition too, so I can read. I think she's not long. Because some of the ones, again, in hindsight, you look back and say like, maybe I should have edited that one down. But you know what? It's all perfect. So I'm going to read to you from the deck, and then we can kind of spin a little more on what it means to you. So I honor virtue. So virtue is defined as moral excellence, goodness, or righteousness, but this definition alone does not fully encapsulate what living this ideal means. It has been said that the 4 cardinal virtues are temperance, prudence, courage, and justice. 4 pillars emerging from a strong spiritual foundation that holds the divine astral architecture of the soul in its place. The pillars of virtue can be honored by remembering the call to action this ideal evokes. And then I incorporated an Egyptian proverb which says, to know means to record in one's memory, but to understand means to blend with the thing and to assimilate it to oneself. To show temperance is to be reminded to keep your spiritual scale balanced, to keep a calm mind, to control your emotions, to breathe, to remember that love is the highest truth. To demonstrate prudence is to exercise caution, to remain practical, and to use discretion. It is to be aware and to ponder the weight of your actions, to contemplate how each choice may manifest through every area of your life. Weigh and consider your options for action, because there is always a direct reaction as it ripples through time. To be courageous is to keep an open heart and to stay strong in the face of adversity. It is to be reminded to create from a place of love by aligning your heart with your mind. You can dissolve any fear by facing it head on, because the only way past fear is through it. All darkness has the potential to be transmuted into light by letting your own inner light shine. Emotional, physical, and mental strength are the actions of this inner light from which courageousness emerges. The fortitude of I honor virtue allows for a liberation of spirit untethered from the binding chains of fear. To apply the virtue of justice to your life is to will what is fair and to remember to do the right thing always. Being righteous isn't about having to be right. It's about being right in the spiritual sense of a connection to the heart, to compassion, kindness, to empathy, and to a humble awareness of the interconnected nature of every living being. So honoring virtue, like how are the four virtues, your four pillars? Thank you so much. I'm actually getting my hypnosis certification this year, so I plan to do more with my voice with hypnosis and meditation. So sidebar. How are you tending to temperance, prudence, courage, justice? How's your spiritual scale balance? How are you honoring virtue within yourself? So I would look to this card as like a means of self-care, as a means of self-inquiry, as a means of like just really tending to your spiritual foundation and seeing where things may need to be a little stronger. How can you find inner strength again? How can you honor virtue within your path? In Egyptian mystery schools, so they say in the myth of Isis and Osiris, so Isis and Osiris were brother and sister that were madly in love with each other. And Set, their other brother, was so angry and jealous about the relationship between Isis and Osiris that he murdered Osiris and cut him up into a bunch of pieces and threw him all over the Nile. Isis was so devastated that she transformed herself into a winged bird, flew all over the Nile, putting him back together, and found all the pieces except for his penis. But she fashioned a golden phallus, and then he resurrected. And Osiris is always depicted as green. And I used to think in some of the common literature that Osiris is depicted as green because he resurrected. He was dead, then Isis put him back together, he resurrected. But in chematology and Egyptian mystery schools, they believe that the green that he's depicted on is that Neter, or Neteru, is the Egyptian word for god and goddess, but it is loosely translated as a force of nature. So it's like, in Hinduism, we have the avatars of the Godhead. In Egyptian mythology, right, like the Neters and Neteru are gods and goddesses of the Godhead. But all this to say, green in this esoteric tradition is not about like resurrection, it's about being closest to nature. So when Osiris is depicted as green, he was closest to God, as closest to nature, as closest to that universal life force, which is nature. So if you see like she's depicted green here next to having this strong spiritual foundation, it's like when you are in alignment with all of your truths and living embodied in your integrity and authenticity, you're closest to source. You're closest to that oneness. Green is also the color of the heart chakra. So like, what is the space like when we're in utero before our brain forms, our heart forms? There's no hemispheres in the heart. It's this one space of truth. So that's a call to, connect to your heart, connect to that source energy, and tend to your foundations of spirit. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's helpful. So then we have Angel and then Cesar. Yay! Cool. Thank you. Thank you for being here. This has been really fun. And I'm enjoying these conversations. I've probably been on for like over an hour now too. So Angel. I invoke laughter. I love her. So, if you've ever heard of a Heyoka spirit, so a Heyoka is like this cosmic trickster spirit. The trickster archetype is a really powerful teacher. So in Tibetan wisdom, they call it crazy wisdom. I went to Bhutan like 2 years ago, and when I was there, I was like, oh my God, like, where am I right now? There are dicks everywhere. It's a spiritual thing. In Bhutan, there are like paintings of penises everywhere, and it's like hilarious, but it's like a spiritual thing that like is no big deal. But it's funny when you look at it when you're just like, oh my god, why is this everywhere? But like, okay, crazy wisdom. You all have one or the other or both, and like part of human life. So to say I invoke laughter as a card to give you, and I say that in just sharing the dick story, because maybe this week and maybe right now what you need most is laughter. Have you been feeling sad lately? Have you been feeling heavier lately? Has there just been like a lack of joy in your life? Where can you, if you've seen Marie Kondo, The Art of Tidying Up, or if you haven't seen it, so Marie Kondo has this method of like picking up things in your life, and if they spark joy, you hold on to it, but if it doesn't spark joy, get rid of it. So where in your life is joy not being sparked? If you've been sad lately, how can you bring more laughter into your life? How can you laugh more, and how can you make others laugh more? What I'm really getting for you is like that, like, God, like things feel so serious sometimes, feel so heavy sometimes. Like maybe it's a good time to just watch South Park. Maybe it's a good time to put on your favorite funny movie. Just laugh. Let that effervescence of spirit tickle through your heart and shift some of this heaviness. And to find that like crazy wisdom, to find ways to just be like, God, it is a cosmic joke. Even when it feels so hard, even when it feels so awful, even when like you have days where it's just like, ugh. Find a way to laugh through it. You know, nobody gets out of this alive. And that is the unfortunate and beautiful and devastating and gorgeous thing about being a human being, is that we're here for this limited amount of time. And it can feel so hard to be born into this capitalist system where you have so many things working against you, where we just feel like we're constantly pushing a rock up a hill, trying to find a way to make ends meet and to just feel okay. But if we just say like, phew, fuck, I am okay. I'm gonna be okay. There's always light at the end of whatever tunnel I'm going through. And fuck if I'm pushing the rock up the hill. Like, maybe put some googly eyes on it and find a way to laugh at it. So what I'm getting from this card, what I'm getting from this is like incorporate laughter into your life this week. Find a way, whatever it is, to laugh. I was looking at kitten videos on YouTube. If it's like, I don't personally like love TikTok, and I hear it's getting canceled because of whatever, but find a way to laugh, find funniness. You deserve it, and allow that to tickle your spirit and move that energy to just like dance through it. Or even if it's like putting on like your favorite music and just like having a dance party for yourself and just be like, I don't care how goofy I look, I'm just gonna move right now and I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna listen to Ace of Base, I Saw the Sign, and enjoy myself. So laugh, let some happiness in. You deserve it, and you'll feel better. And I hope that's helpful. Also, on another ridiculous thing is, if you've ever heard of laughter yoga, my really dear friend who I mentioned earlier did the Oracle deck, Richie Brown. He's certified laughter yoga teacher. And basically what happens with laughter yoga, and you can find these on YouTube, is that like if you start laughing and you let some time go by, you just like laugh, practice laughter yoga, your brain doesn't know the difference. So the same chemical effects eventually kick in when you start laughing, and then little by little you're actually eventually like really laughing. And it's like this ridiculous practice, but it's really helpful. So who cares how crazy you look? Laugh. It's good for you. So Cesar, Angel, I hope that was helpful. Kira. Little kitten exploring. Cesar, if you're still here, give me a wave. Say hi. I'm pulling a card for you. So whether you're still here or not, you can maybe catch it after the fact. And, yeah. All right. Hi. Good. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that brought you joy. Spark more of it. Spark joy. Do it. I communicate with compassion. So, I communicate with compassion. She's a good one to read from, because this card is based off of an Egyptian netter called Hathor. So Hathor is really interesting. the Hathor, like if you've heard of Tom Kenyon, he channels them. His work is really interesting, but like of all the Egyptian netters and deities, they're really interesting looking. They kind of look like if you've ever seen the Dark Crystal, which is actually what my cat is named after, Kira from the Dark Crystal. They have these like really interesting faces and ears, and the Hathor are really, really interesting. So I'm going to read the passage from the card. Thank you for being here. And then we'll see how it relates to you. And then I'm going to sign off. And then until next time I pop on. So I communicate with compassion based off of Hathor. What, Kira? She is... A lot of the cards in this deck too place a lot of emphasis on like communication and language and how we use our words. And even in my life, I try to really like use my voice to offer comfort, to use my words carefully. Words cast spells. So I communicate with compassion. Communication and compassion both share layers of meaning and manifestation. Each have the ability to affect through expression and iteration. Looking at their fusion, may we be reminded of the ancient Egyptian goddess Hathor, who was the personification of love, beauty, music, dance, maternal energies, and joy, and is further embodied as the goddess Aphrodite for the Greeks and Venus to the Romans. It was believed that Hathor's heart shone through the afterlife, through life, death, transformation, and transfiguration. In waking life, she took on different attributes of netters as needed, animals such as the cow or cat or cosmos, and she was often depicted as the embodiment of the Milky Way. In the life of the underworld, she acted as an usher through the afterlife, greeting the dead with refreshments and comfort. Every iteration of the Hathor life force found resonance with tenderness and a type of sympathetic communication that expressed the necessary magic of the moment, as she could feel, sense, think, and embody within the twinkling of time. Compassion is something to actively communicate, is a fluid ideal that transforms with each expression and sentiment, depending on what metaphorical cards are dealt, in coping with the situation at hand. A reminder of the virtues of compassion finds resonance in the suit of the minor arcana of the tarot. Energies correspondence of the elements of Hathor's heart. Compassion, like the suit of cups, which may be filled and drank from, is a feeling of relationship to the matter at hand. Compassion can be in a thought, like the suit of swords, which communicates its power through action and discernment. Compassion, like the suit of pentacles, can be a sensation in the way of a hug or an expression of affection where matter is met with mindfulness. Compassion, like the suit of wands, is something that can be intuited and expressed through the silent holding of space when it is needed. Body language and living language rooted in kindness and loving nature are the embodiment of the humane, the life force of nature applied through empathetic elucidation, and a fluency in the great faculties of the senses is the vehicle to affect through affection. Affection being eternally effective in life, death, and all of dimensions in between. So, I communicate with compassion. Have you felt maybe a little like prickly in your energy lately? Are you being affectionate to those in your life that need affection? Are you empathetic? Are you feeling compassionate towards others around you? Or are you just feeling frustrated? Do you feel like you just like have your guard up and you're just like, God, everybody leave me alone. I don't even have anything to like offer right now. Do you feel like you just maybe aren't wanting to be as affectionate as normal? Wherever there's an area of your life right now that you can be more compassionate and hold space for another person, that would be what I would say, whatever that love language is. Not everybody has the same love language. Some have, I forget what the main love languages are, but like some it's like acts of affection, some are like gifts, some is like communication, time. Love language is a really interesting thing. I'd like suggest Googling it, especially like if you want to dive deeper into how you can be more compassionate this week, is that articulating through the various love languages of the people in your life that may need more affection and empathy right now. Even if it's annoying to you, even if it feels frustrating, even if you're just like, oh my God, I don't want to hold space for this right now. Or like, maybe I need this. Why do I have to give that? Put your shoes in put your feet in the shoes of another and offer that, because the beautiful thing is that, as we're learning from these readings, if you've tuned into other ones, as we do to someone else, the natural byproduct of that action is a ripple. And it may not come through right away, it may come through in time, but there's a healing that takes place when you offer compassion to another, because then it inspires the other to offer compassion to another. So wherever there's an area of your life where you can communicate with more compassion and speak a different love language depending on who you're interacting with, that's the key. Be more loving. Think of Hathor. Think of that Hathor energy. How can you be like this great host, kind of like greeting people where they're at with compassion and love, giving them what they need, not necessarily what you need in the moment, but what other people need. And I mean, it's like so cheesy, but what the world needs now is love. Love is a superlative human state. Love is a superlative human emotion. And where can you be more loving in your life? How can you have more compassion and hold space for even the stuff that annoys you or the people that annoy you? Depending on like who you were living with during quarantine, it's been a time where like a lot of relationships have shifted and changed. I spoke earlier about like friend breakups. A lot of relationships have been tested. Spending time alone, right? Like whether you're quarantined with a significant other, with your family, with yourself, or whatever it was, I think we're all still sifting through that post-traumatic stress of whatever came up during that time. Lots of shadow work. This conversation began talking about plant medicine when I first started this live. And one of the things about plant medicine journeys is that the best call to action through surfing through them is the divine art of surrender. So surrendering to what comes up, because what's coming is going. What is coming to the forefront, right, is really like what you need to work on. So thank you. Yeah, totally. Love, right? It's so hard. Isn't it hard? It's like the most, like, aha, yeah, that's it, just love. But then it's like, oh, fuck, just love. But surrender to the lessons that come with that, right? Thank you, Foundation. And thank you all for being here. So, yeah, I mean, cat playing again. So with that note, we had our collective readings. So if you rewatch this and kind of fast forward to that, it's a lot of the same thing. We're all connected. Everything connects. Call me to serve. Just serve humanity. Yes. You're welcome. I'm so glad everything resonates. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So the first time I ever channeled, which I can talk about on another Instagram live, because it's a whole other rabbit hole. But one of the first times I ever channeled, the message that I got was like, serve all on the way to God. It was like handwritten. I do automatic writing, and it was like, serve all on the way to God. And often when I'd ask, what is God? Like, God is just an easy term to use to describe something that can't even be explained in language. God, unfortunately, within like our context now, like you imagine like Sky Pop, like this like angry Old Testament God with a beard in the sky. It's confusing. Or then you think of like Jesus, is Jesus God? And then like, I saw a meme once where it's like Jesus praying and he's like, hi God, are you there? It's me, you. And it's kind of like the same thing with like a lot of these things where it's like, God, how do you wrap your mind around what is God? What is something that's so hard to explain? Like Sufism has really beautiful ways of like, if you read the poems of Rumi, it's like understanding this channel of life force energy. Like I talked about this too when the other reading I did, like Allah is just the Arabic word for God, and God is just a word for something that you can't even put to language. So serving others on the way to the ineffable is really doing a service to the universe, the cosmic forces, the world at large. It's so hard hearing that expression, like we are one, especially in the like new age, like sewage, toxic positivity culture, it's like, well, we're all just one, you know, but it's like there's still suffering in the world. So how do we make others' suffering less? And also identify like our privileges and what we can do in this current embodiment and incarnation that we are to make the world a better place. How can we serve others? How can we help people transcend their suffering and trauma and all of the hardship that comes with being a human being, having this, or spiritual being having a human experience. So all that to say is that to be of service for me is really to just transcend the barrier between self and other and realize that like there is no other. Another is anything other than other. We're all a part of each other. And on that note, love each other more. Ask people how they are. Hold open doors for people if you can. I don't know if you can with social distancing, but be kind. Be gentle. Have empathy. It's gonna only get weirder. And it's only gonna get crazier in November. But focus on the things that you can control and being a loving, beautiful, empathetic, compassionate person who listens and holds space and identifies that the world is a work in progress and we are each chiseling away at whatever hardships we've been placed so that we can create new sculptures and foundations for the worlds to come. There's beauty in that. So on that note, I love you all. Thank you all for being here, and I hope to catch you next time. Sleep well, travel well, all the best.